And if you lack either of those two things, if you lack respect or if you lack accountability, it's not working, and you'd be better off ending it immediately.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hello Haymarket. My name is Elize Nyce.
And I'm Daniel Nyce.
And in today's episode, we are going over working with your partner.
Absolutely.
What that's like, what to expect if you're, thinking about going into business with your partner, and just, overall the life, what's it called? Business, personal balance. What's the actual?
Work-life balance?
Yeah, that one. That's the term.
So what comes to mind for me, the way I usually explain it to people, is that she's marketing, I'm sales, and everything else gets farmed out to the rest of our team, right? And that's not to say that our team doesn't do any marketing or sales. We have an ISA department. ISA stands for Inside Sales Agent, so we do have people who do set appointments for us sometimes, and we also have an entire marketing department inside of CASA. But beyond that, we want to take responsibility for generating our own business. And so the way we've internally set it up is that anything that's front-facing for a client, I tend to do, and anything that's more back-end, she tries to do.
Yeah, so that'll include anything with the podcast as far as like editing, recording, any equipment managing, stuff like that, but also as far as like, the real estate business, it's all the contract work, it's the scheduling.
The way we've tried to design it is to play into the lifestyle that we want to have, where I have to go hunt and she gets to be the homemaker.
Yeah.
By restricting what she does to things that can be done at any time, as long as it gets done eventually, right? They're not time sensitive. It allows her to have the flexibility to do what needs to be done at home, right? We are trying to grow a family. We're trying to have kids. We're trying to have a sort of an almost traditional kind of home life in a way.
I feel like that's definitely what I was looking for when I was looking for a partner, is that I don't want to be the breadwinner. I want to be the one who stays at home, raises the family, and like all these kinds of things, while also being able to do something creative, no matter what kind of field that ends up being. But that's definitely what I was looking for.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I noticed early on with her, was that when I was dating her, that she would create vlogs for us together. And so I always knew that there was going to be a creative outlet where she would feel a sense of meaning to her work if she was allowed to exercise those creative juices. And so I think what we settled on was a system where, again, if she's focused on the marketing elements, she's able to add her creative touch. She's able to do it at a time of her choosing. That way, if there's a particular piece of work that she wants to spend more time on to make it higher quality, she has the freedom to do that. Or if there's something that she's less interested in, maybe she could kind of streamline that.
Yeah, and I feel like that also works with my personality, where it's like I don't like being rushed to do things. I definitely take my time with whatever it is that I'm working on, and I feel like that's where it helps with us, because the tasks that I'm responsible for, that are my job and my part of the business, it is that.
Yeah. Yeah, and on top of that, there's just a lot of complementary skills here, things that I have a background in that she doesn't, and vice versa. So, for example, everything to do with the production of this podcast, I don't know what camera to get. I don't know what settings to use. I don't know how to use a video editor. All of that is her. Whereas when it comes time to negotiate with the other side or to engage in some sales tactics, that's something that I do have a background and experience with.
Yeah, or anything to do with math.
Yeah.
Or English, honestly.
So, Elize, what's a typical day in our week look like? Because I know for me, I wake up and I reference my calendar if I'm doing like I should. I'll look at my calendar to see what are my appointments. Because usually you will have already arranged my entire day for me in advance, right?
Yeah. Do you mean like day by day, like Monday, what's the tasks, what Tuesday?
Yeah, like what are the sorts of things that we actually do as realtors?
Well, there's a lot. It's very broad. I guess.
Well, how about I describe what I think a day looks like, and then you fill in the blanks and correct me, right? Because the way I think about it, I wake up And the first 3 hours of the day are typically lead gen, right? And by lead gen, that means reaching out and reminding people that I'm in real estate. And that would be me either picking up the phone or writing an email or sending a text, but some way of contacting people to try to move whatever it is that they're doing forward. And sometimes that means it's an existing client and I'm trying to find them a property off market, or I'm analyzing a deal for one of my investor clients, or it could be as simple as calling my sphere of influence to invite them to an event that we have coming up.
Yeah.
Right? So for example, yesterday I spent 3 hours inviting people in our database to come out to our free movie event where we're going to be having a bit of a party at Bar Louie. We're going to be paying for all kinds of hors d'oeuvres, drinks, and then we're also giving out the free movie tickets next door. So, so that's a great value add way of reaching out to the people we care about and giving them something, right?
So for my day, what it usually sorry, we're
I'm nowhere near done. I got the first 3 hours, and then
I was gonna go for my first 3 hours.
All right, what does your first 3 hours look like?
My first 3 hours are usually, I set up I have my dual screen, so because I need to have both. But on one of my screens, it's just the emails. I'm monitoring anything that comes in to Daniel's emails, and if it's anything that's related to the client, such as like a transaction that's going on, I'll read through it. If anything needs to be done, if it's something that I can do that doesn't require reaching out to the clients or anything like that, I will typically do that. Just monitoring emails pretty much. And then on the other screen,
a full-time job, my God. For those of you who have no frame of reference, it's like hundreds of emails per day.
Yeah, but like definitely sorting through the emails and making sure that if it's important that I keep it, unread. That way, whenever you open your phone, it's like right there so you can look at it. Otherwise, like I do it, I delete it, whatever needs to be done. So that's on one monitor. And then on the other monitor, it's anything that has to do with like the social media stuff. So any of the podcasts that needs to be edited, or if I have to do any of the graphics or anything like that, that's on my other screen. And that's pretty much, I guess, my first 3 hours of the day.
Yeah. So then after the lead gen time is expired, we might get some food or something and be a good, come home, give her a kiss on the cheek, on the lips, say, I love you, baby. And then I look at my calendar and I see that I have a ton of showings scheduled. And so I get in the car and I start driving out to all the different appointments that will be scheduled for all of our different clients. Sometimes I schedule them, sometimes she schedules them. On days where we have a lot of clients, typically in, I'd say, the spring and in the fall, right, is when we're busiest. We have the highest activity level in the market. On days like those, my day is already scheduled, and I may not even know where I'm going until she tells me, because she's had the map drawn out. She knows how long it's going to take to get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And I go to the appointments. I meet the clients, right? We have the belly to belly. I'm listening to their concerns. I'm giving them advice. I'm coaching them and consulting with them. And for any house that's like an 8 out of 10 or better, something that they're taking very seriously, I handle all of the conversations involved with, okay, well, do we want to write an offer? What kind of protections will you have if you decide to back out? How can we make this offer more competitive if we think we need to do that? We're talking to the lenders. We're talking to the listing agents of these houses. If I'm representing a buyer, I got to communicate to find out, are there any competing offers? And then once I have all the information I need, I write it down in notes and I text it to Elize so she can get the paperwork done. You want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah.
So pretty much after those first 3 hours and after lunch, I'm on standby. Like whatever needs to happen. Like if Daniel's like, hey, I need these showings booked and set in my calendar, or hey, I made these appointments, so I have to put them in the calendar for him. That way, whenever he does go to a place, he just has to pull up his calendar, click on the location, and then press directions, and then it takes him away.
And it's important, actually, that she mentions that she's on standby, because getting it into my calendar is critical, because we are not the only two people. There's also the ISA department on our team. And they will book appointments for us. And if they see a gap in the calendar, they will fill it. Yeah. And so to avoid double booking myself, it's critical that the calendar be treated as kind of sacrosanct.
Yeah. So, so again, on standby, if anything needs to be scheduled, I schedule them, I add them to the calendar and stuff like that. Again, Daniel mentioned if he has a contract that needs to be written, I'm right there. So I can get the signatures or the the DocuSign sent out to the clients. That way they can get the signatures and I can submit almost right away. This way there's not a delay.
It's so critical. Speed is important. If you take it, like if you're a solo agent and you're spending your whole day showing properties to like 5 or 6 clients, as I do, and then you get home at the end of the night, 8 or 9 o'clock, everyone wants to go to bed. No one wants to stay up late and talk to you about the offer and write it, and then have, it takes a good hour to negotiate, and then it takes another hour to get it written up, and then you got to submit it. And by the time you do all that, the house is gone. Somebody else bought it.
Yeah.
Right? Especially in a competitive moment like the spring or the fall.
What's the phrase? Time
is money?
No, time breaks all deals, or what is that?
Time
phrase?
kills all deals.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And so our typical flow, the way we're able to get so many buyers under contract, is that I have the conversation with the client right away, as soon as physically possible. And sometimes I'm doing that while I'm driving between appointments. And then once I have those notes, the cliff notes done, I send those to Elize, and she can spend the hour to get everything done immediately. So we can truly be in 2 places at once and get everything done on time.
And I feel like this was definitely critical. What was it, 2021?
2021 was the insane market.
Yeah, it was definitely critical then, because at that point, it wasn't just Daniel going to do showings. I had to go on the road and do showings too.
Because we were that busy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that's done, hopefully our goal every day is to be done by 7 so we can be home and spend some together time. Right?
Which doesn't normally happen.
It doesn't. But there are also days where, nothing's scheduled.
Yeah.
You can have the low time too. It's a very seasonal business.
What we've described today is like a very scheduled and hectic day. Mm-hmm. They're not all like that. Like some days, you're just in Woodbridge for one showing and then you come home and then that's it. It definitely varies. It's not really a scheduled, or it's not a rigid.
You have to be flexible in this business.
Yeah.
Right? So the way we described it is typical, but it's not every day. So 2 examples of other things that are really consistent but are not actually like an everyday experience would be our Tuesdays. Every Tuesday's got a pretty set schedule for it. And the weekends. So let's talk about the Tuesdays first. Why is Tuesday different?
Tuesdays are very different because that's the day where we dedicate our whole day, pretty much, coming to the office in Reston, and we film all of our podcasts. Now, again, we're expecting, so we've been like doubling up our
recording.
Yeah, our recording. And so, for example, today we have 3 people, and this is our 4th.
And we're actually going to have a 5th one that's going to pop in any minute we got to be ready for.
Yeah, so this whole day has been recording just to, prepare us for when little baby does come out and we can't come in as often. Yeah,
so Tuesdays, I'd say it begins with, obviously every day starts with going to the gym. Before lead gen, before anything, you wake up, you go to the gym. After we go to the gym, we get in the car and we come out to Reston, come to our office, our brokerage, and that's where if we have an appointment before our team meeting, we'll do that, record a podcast, then we'll go to our team meeting, participate with everybody, run over the numbers and the stats, kind of see a little bit of friendly competition, who's in first place, who's in second place, who's in 20th place, right? Coaching opportunity, masterminding opportunity, so-and-so closed 3 deals, great, how'd you source them, what happened, were there any challenges, kind of let everybody learn through osmosis of what everyone else is doing. And then after the meeting, we have another podcast set up, right? That way we're getting a lot
Sometimes
of recording in.
Mostly 2.
Yeah, and then we stick around and we participate in the grid. There's also a lot of networking we do on Tuesdays. Tuesday's a big networking day for us. And anyone who doesn't know what grid is a real estate investor meetup group. And it's a great opportunity to come and expand your network and to meet other like-minded individuals. Because you need to know a good plumber, someone who does tax, someone who does legal, someone who understands how to help you execute on a title challenge, right? You're going to need to know the right people so that way when you face a challenge, you know who to call. And that's a great environment to do it in. Also, you don't know what you don't know. So if you show up and someone blows your mind with a story about something crazy that they're doing, you never would have known about it if you didn't show up. I'll give you an example. The last one, someone was talking to me about how and a lot of people talk about how they flip houses. This person was flipping horses. They bought some land and they're using it to flip horses, and it's wild, the kinds of strategies you can run into. So
It's wild because it's horses, but
That's great. If only we could reach the little button that lets us actually play that for real.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of what happens on Tuesdays.
The other day was usually weekends, Saturdays, Sundays.
And how do those usually go differently?
Those usually go differently because those are when open houses occur. We used to do 4 in a day?
3. We used to do, the most we ever did was 6. Where I did 3 and she did 3.
Yeah.
That was the most we ever did. We could fit in 15 or more in, per week.
Yeah, but then rules changed, so we're definitely limited now.
Yeah, we don't have as much access now, but we could probably get those numbers back up again if we really wanted to.
Yeah, if we really tried to. However, it is just you though doing the open houses now because I'm pregnant.
Yeah, we don't need her getting out there like that. But yeah, open houses, and typically when I'm focused on it and I'm trying hard to hit a lot of open houses, usually what I'll do is I'll go from 10 to 12, and then I'll spend an hour driving, and then I'll go from 1 to 3, spend an hour driving, and then go from 4 to 6, and that's how I hit 3 open houses in a day. And the whole time I'm meeting people, getting their information. If there's a way that I can help them, we set up another appointment, and then Elize helps me get that scheduled, and also reporting all the back-end administrative stuff in order to coordinate with the rest of our team.
Yeah. So with all of this work planning and scheduling, I bet your question is, how do you have time for family or friends? We have to schedule those in.
Yeah, you
and in
block the day
advance.
off. It's kind of like if you're at your regular corporate job and you need to request a day off. I go to my wife and I request a day off.
Yeah,
I say, Elize, can you, do we have room for this? Do we have time for this? Anytime anyone asks me, hey, when can we do this? I just look at Elize and I'm like, ask the boss.
Yeah, we're definitely going into a different type of topic, but still staying with the topic of working with your partner. It's if Daniel wanted to schedule something with his boys or a family event or something like that, we like to at least, it's weird because it's 2 spectrums. It's we either know way in advance, a month or a couple weeks beforehand, or we know that week. Because usually if it's that week, we can tell, okay, we do have a free time during this day at this time. We can, do that. Or, we can't do that because we have showings and you're in Woodbridge or Bealton or whatever.
Yeah.
And if it's way in advance, we can be okay, we can make sure that we're not scheduling anything for this day.
Yeah. It's one of the blessings, really, of having the setup the way we do as partners, because if I'm the one having an event, she's still on call to service a client if needed, and vice versa. But if we're both participating at a family event, even then, usually we don't have to step away. But if it's an emergency and we really are needed to discuss a house before it disappears in 3 hours, something like that, at least we can split the work. I can do half, she can do half, because I'll deal with the pieces facing the client. She can deal with the paperwork, and then between the two of us, we get it done twice as fast.
Yeah, while still having time for family.
Right.
Or friends, whatever the event
The point
is.
being, it's far less of a burden because it's shared.
Yeah.
Yeah. All
so
right.
I guess, do you want to shout out some tips as far as how to work with your partner, how to work well?
It comes down to mutual respect and setting boundaries. There needs to be a lot of respect for the partner.
Yes.
All right, you are not their boss, but at the same token, they are accountable to you, and you need to have agreement on what that accountability is. And if you lack either of those two things, if you lack respect or if you lack accountability, it's not working, and you'd be better off ending it immediately and finding a different arrangement.
Yeah, I think my tip would definitely be to play to your strengths. Like I said, Daniel does really well talking with clients and dealing with numbers and stuff like that. I do really well as far as scheduling, mapping things out, and creative stuff.
Yeah, kind of bigger picture, getting it all organized. It's almost like if you've read the book Rocket Fuel, you have the visionary and you have the integrator. I'm not sure if I'm using the correct terms there. It's been a while since I've read the book, but it's important to have someone who actually gets the work done, right? I can discuss everything until I'm blue in the face, but I need someone who's actually going to go get the paperwork done, because by the time I'm done talking, I'm tired. And I need a little help to just get it executed. So that's one of the things that we do well together.
But yeah, I think those are definitely two really big and broad tips as far as working with your partner, is just having that respect and respecting each other's boundaries.
Respect and accountability.
Because I have things that I should be held accountable for, and he's relying on me to hold him accountable for the things that he needs to be held accountable for.
Yeah. It only works if you have complementary skills, meaning I can't do what she does and she can't do what I do. But if we're agreeing to go into business together, then that's a big investment of time and energy that you are making on the promise that your partner will show up.
Yeah.
And if they don't show up, then the bleed over effect is going to ruin the relationship.
Yeah.
Beyond just the business, it'll ruin the relationship on top of it. So that's why it's so critical that you have the respect and the accountability. And if either of those pieces are missing, end that arrangement and find a different solution.
I will say real quick on the topic of that is just the whole the bleeding of the personal life and business life is, if you guys are on a date, it should be a date, not talking about work.
Yeah, which is hard to do, because if you spend all day working, well, what else are you going to talk about, right? Most husband and wives who are from different industries can share their work and talk about their day because it's news. But if we've both been keeping track of everything, what's there to talk about? So one of the things that we try to do in order to combat that is that we talk about our different families, right? How's your mom? How's your sister? How's your whatever, right? And we also try to set up events that are unrelated to one another, where I'll hang out with my guys, she'll hang out with some of her girls or her family, her cousins, right? Kind of plan a trip. Those are the sort of things that I think have a lot of value, because then when you reunite, you have something new to share and discuss.
I think a part of it too is sharing experiences with each other, or doing an activity with each other. That way it's not just talking about work, because work's going to come up regardless. Even if you say we're not going to talk about work, it's going to come up.
Absolutely.
But if you're doing something else, if we could play a board game or do an escape room or something like that kind of we're not working right now. This is actual playtime.
And work-life balance is not going to be a perfect average. There's going to be days where you work and you just accept that that's what it's going to be from sunup to sundown. And then you're going to have days where you're going to not work at all the whole day, right?
Yeah.
And same thing when you talk about weeks or months, depending upon the season. It's a very seasonal business.
Yeah. But that's it for our episode. And thank you guys for watching. And
Absolutely.
we'll see you at the next one.
Bye, guys.